Joining me now is 2024 presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, sir. I want to start with what I began the program with, which is this racist shooter killing 3 black people in Jacksonville yesterday. What is your reaction to the shooting?
It is such a tragedy, and my heart goes out to those families. This should not be happening in the United States of America, and it is wrong. The reality is we have a mental health epidemic in this country. There are reports that this particular individual, the perpetrator, was indeed evaluated for mental health deficiencies as well. And I think we need to have the courage in this country to bring back a practice of putting back psychiatrically ill people who pose a risk to their communities into psychiatric institutions, not just drugging them up, but faith-based approaches and other approaches that fill our longing for purpose and meaning in this country. Mental health is one aspect of these shootings, and apparently, and we're still learning a lot about what happened, the facts are still coming out. Also, this was very much apparently racially motivated. The sheriff there said point blank that this shooter had manifestos coming, 3 manifestos, and said specifically that he went to this dollar store with the intent of killing black people. I think that is heinous and deserves to be called out for what it is. The reality is we've created such a racialized culture in this country in the last several years that right as the last few burning embers of racism were burning out, we have a culture in this country largely created by media and establishment and universities and politicians that throw kerosene on that racism. And I can think of no better way to fuel racism in this country than to take something away from other people on the basis of their skin color. I've been saying that for years.
Man, this crime, these murders, man, they were heinous acts. They truly were of a sick, demented individual. We truly have to recognize that. But the thing is, man, we do have to understand what Vivek is saying is right. Again, right now, we fan the flames of division in this country, but only if the shooter's white and the victims are black. Again, we don't talk about things the other way around. You know, again, if a black person out there killing white people just because they're white, again, we don't talk about that. And I'm going to put, man, 2 clips from earlier this year showing this. And
as Rob Masson reports, they say one of the suspects has admitted to his role, saying they just wanted to go out and kill a white guy.
They have been booked with the first-degree murder of 66-year-old handyman Lawrence Herr, also known as Peanut, who was gunned down while repairing this mailbox on Kenner's Georgetown Place last month.
Of the accused gunman who randomly killed 2 men in North Tulsa. We now know the killings were likely racially motivated.
Fox 23's Scott Martin was in the courtroom today and learned the new charge that suspect faces.
The newest charge against Carlton Guilford is a malicious intimidation or harassment charge. And according to court documents, he shot 2 people randomly because of their race. Days after being denied bond, Carlton Guilford faced a judge virtually for his arraignment. He's charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of shooting with intent to kill, and now a new charge, which falls under what Oklahoma considers a hate crime.
We truly get to understand, you know, they don't talk about these things, not nationwide, not national. So again, we truly got to understand that. We also got to understand, man, the numbers. You're several times more likely to be assaulted by a black person if you're white than by a white person if you're black.
I do not think this kind of racial division and any division is good for us as the United States.
I believe that there are a lot of people of color in this country who don't think it was just lasting embers of racism, but that a lot more work had to be done, particularly given the history of the systemic racism in this country with slavery and beyond. I want to ask you about a comment that you made about white supremacy in Iowa on Friday.
I've never once encountered that yet. I'm sure the boogeyman white supremacist exists somewhere in America. I've just never met him. Never seen one. Never met one in my life, right? Maybe I'll meet a unicorn sooner. And maybe those exist too.
So just because somebody hasn't encountered one doesn't mean that the notion of white supremacy doesn't exist as a threat in America. What do you think goes through the minds of the families of the 3 victims in yesterday's shooting when they hear you say that white supremacy is basically a fantasy?
I'm sure they're grieving for their loss, and I don't want to politicize those victims. Dana, this is a very sensitive situation where we should have nothing but foremost respect for those victims and not bring them into partisan politics. But I was responding to a question where someone asked me, what racism have I experienced in recent years? And I answered honestly, most of that racism has come from the modern left.
Guys, man, we truly got to understand what she's doing. She is politicizing it right here. That is what she's doing. Again, she's talking about how black folks, man, I'm sure there are plenty of black folks that believe white supremacy is a big problem. And she's right. I'm sure there are. But again, that doesn't mean they're right. They're wrong. And we truly got to recognize that. Again, they're being told one thing. They're being told one thing from the media. And of course, she knows that because she's the one telling them that. So again, we truly have to recognize what's happening here. You know, again, man, I know I said it earlier, but, you know, you are several times more likely to be attacked by a black person if you're white than by a white person if you're black. We truly have to understand that. But again, they only fan the flames in one direction. You know, again, the same thing with violent crime. You know, less than 13% of the population, black folks, commit over 50% of all violent crime in this country. We truly have to recognize that. We also have to recognize that black folks, they murder people at about the same numbers as white folks, even though white folks are about 60% of the population and they're less than 13. So again, we truly have to recognize what's happening. But again, they don't tell you that kind of stuff. They only talk about white supremacy and racism and hatred coming from white folks. And again, what they're trying to do, people have got to wake up to what they're trying to do. Again, they're trying to fan the flames, cause a big division, and then they're going to they're turning the key and they're going to lock us down. Again, they're going to take away even more of our rights. So again, people have got to recognize what's happening. You're being played.
Forgotten in the United States of America. Our true strength is the set of ideals that unite us. That's my job to revive as our next president. And I think that the next generation in particular is so starved for that. Starved for commonality, starved for a nation that is unified, bigger than the sum of its parts. That's what we need to recreate in this country. And to those who say the remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination, I say no. The right remedy is actually abandoning all discrimination and moving forward with colorblind meritocracy in the United States of America.
You took it to another level on Friday. In addition to the comment we played, you took issue with comments from Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley. She reportedly said, quote, "We don't need any more brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice." About that, you said, "These are the words of the modern grand wizards of the modern KKK." You know, I'm sure, the KKK was responsible for more than a century's worth of horrific lynchings, rapes, murders of black people. How in any way are the views you're talking about comparable to the views and atrocities committed by the KKK?
What I said is the Grand Wizards of the KKK would be proud of what they would hear her say, because there's nothing more racist than saying that your skin color predicts something about the content of your viewpoints or your
You didn't just say they
ideas.
would be proud. You said these are the words of the modern Grand Wizards of the modern KKK.
It is the same spirit. You're right about that, Dana. I think it is the same spirit to say that I can look at you and based on just your skin color, that I know something about the content of your character, that I know something about the content of the viewpoints you're allowed to express. For Ayanna Pressley to tell me that because of my skin color, I can't express my views, that is wrong. It is divisive. It is driving hate in this country. This is dividing our country to a breaking point.
That is a debate that is based on nonviolent discussion. That you just said you're using rhetoric, which she said she's using rhetoric. That's one thing. And another thing is to say that she represents and she is a modern version of a KKK, which, as you know, was dedicated to the subjugation and violence against Black people. How on earth is she a modern
Dana,
grand wizard
let's be intellectually
of that
honest.
kind of organization?
Let's be intellectually honest and get to the heart of what this debate ought to be about. There is a worldview that says that the remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination, that if you're Black or brown, you have to have a particular point of view. That's from Ibram Kendi. That's from Ayanna Pressley, the people I quoted in my speech yesterday.
But can
There's
you
a
have
different
an
view
intellectually
that I have, which
honest
says that regardless of
conversation
who you are,
when you accuse
have to
her
be able
of
to have your own
being a
opinion.
grand wizard
Let's
of
have
the
the debate.
KKK? Can you have that intellectually honest discussion with that kind of rhetoric?
Yes, I can, Dana, because the point I'm highlighting is that even the people who, in good spirit, we all agree that the KKK was an awful organization that is a toxic stain in our national history. So given that we can start from that point of agreement, now that allows us to say, well, who actually sounds more like that organization today?
You know what, guys, man, we got to recognize, man, he's right. He is dead on, man. You know, the thing is, and we have got to recognize also, man, that, you know, again, that kind of rhetoric, that is what leads to violence. So again, the Grand Wizard, the new Grand Wizard, yeah. Again, we truly got to understand that. Again, you're fanning the flames of racial division. That is what the KKK did. We truly have to recognize that. You know, again, we have got to be honest right now. That's coming from the left. You know, it's coming from the left. It's coming from a lot of Black leftists. It truly is. We have got to recognize that. And the left, man, as a whole. You know, people have got to recognize what's going on. Again, they're trying to pit people against each other. We have truly got to recognize that. They're trying to pit white people, Black people, Asian people against each other. And again, man, we also have to recognize, man, that, again, white people are 60% of the population in this country. But yet they commit pretty much the same number of murders as Black folks. We truly have to recognize that. Black folks are like 12.6%, right at that, 12.7, something like that, of the population. So again, we truly have to recognize what is happening. They're trying to get you to hate a certain group of people, even though they commit far less crime as a proportion of their population, as a percentage of their population. No, again, man, I think the only group that does less crime as a percentage is Asian. So again, we truly have to recognize what is going on right now. You know, again, they're trying to get people to hate people. They're trying to get you to hate. Because hate, we do have to understand that that's a destructive force. It doesn't build anything. It's not going to make anything better. And that's where this is coming from. You know, that's what happened in Jacksonville. It's hate. You know, that's what happened in the clips that I showed you. Hate. You know, again, we have truly got to understand hate divides. Hate tears things apart. Hate kills. And again, what Presley is doing, what she is saying, is divisive. You're telling people that if they don't have the same view that you have, then you're not being a brown voice or a Black voice. And again, they have no use for you. We truly have to understand what she is saying. You know, again, that's hateful. That is hateful. And that is what they're trying to push. And again, hate does not build a thing. Hate destroys. It totally destroys. So again, we have truly got to recognize that. But hey guys, if you would, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Thanks.
You son of a